think the lesson is this, that today in 21st century America, no big company can be successful for long if the company is perceived as out of step with the values of their customers, their employees, the society at whole. They can't succeed if they're perceived not to care. They can't succeed if they're perceived to be irresponsible. You have to be in sync as a business with where society is going. Another way to say it is simple. Companies need to be trusted. Trust is the coin of the realm. And I have to believe that that's true in an industry as personal as yours, where it's about the food that we eat every day, as it is in any other industry. This demand on business, the idea that you can't get out of step with where society is going, may sound like a burden, but it's also an opportunity at the same time. Because the other thing that these companies found after they made these changes were unexpected business benefits. The inspections that Nike does, and by the way, it's not just Nike. You could go to Timberland, you could go to Gap, you could go to Wal-Mart. All of these companies, and it's a new development in the last 10 years, are saying we want to be responsible for our supply chain as far out as it goes. What they found was that the suppliers, the factories who treated their employees better, who didn't work them too many long hours, were actually more productive, more flexible. They were better able to meet the demands of the clothing companies here in the US. McDonald's found that once you add healthier choices to the menu, a mom who might be concerned about health would be more likely to go to McDonald's with her children if she knew she could order a salad while the kids are ordering a hamburger. They also found that people wanted to know what they were eating, so this transparency about nutrition turned out to be a good thing for McDonald's. And TXU, it's too soon to tell. The deal with the private equity firms has not closed yet, but I think it's a fairly safe assumption that if we get carbon regulation in Washington, and we certainly will sometime in the next, if not in the next 2 years, in the new administration in 2008, TXU will be better prepared to deal with that carbon-constrained environment now that they have let go of these coal plants than they would have been otherwise pursuing the coal strategy. In the time we have together, the rest of the time we have together, I want to try to persuade you of two arguments. One is a big, sweeping, historical argument, and the other is a much smaller and more personal argument. The big message is this, that despite the scandals we have all read about in corporate America, starting back with Enron and going up to today with Apple and stock option backdating and all the problems in between, despite the fact that CEOs still make too much money, and I hope there aren't too many CEOs in the room now that I've said that, despite the fact that even dealing with big companies as a consumer or an employee can sometimes be a frustrating thing, I believe that corporate America is changing for the better. It's more environmentally friendly, it's more diverse, it's more transparent, and if you think in the long term, these truths are fairly obvious. 20 years ago, big companies saw environmental issues purely as problems, purely as costs. Today, there are a vast array of areas where Fortune 500 companies are working hand in hand with the big environmental groups to solve problems together. On diversity, I'm sure if we were at the FMI conference 20 years ago, we would look around the room and it would be a sea of white, male, middle-aged faces. It looks very different today, at least as I look out at you from here. Companies are defining their responsibilities so much more broadly. When I was a kid, we never thought about where a t-shirt or a sneaker would come from. Today, we take companies say, okay, I care not only about the product I'm selling, but how it's made. And all of this is a product of rising expectations. Society, for a series of reasons I'll explain in a few minutes, has higher expectations of business. Business is being forced to meet them, and the smart companies are getting out ahead of those expectations and anticipating them and making a competitive advantage of that. So that's the big message, and it's a very positive message. It's that we should feel good about where business is going.